Okay, we're back, and in this video we are going to be painting the lilac. So for the lilac, what we're going to be using is the Princeton number 6 Neptune, and I'll be using 3 variations of colors, or variations of purple rather, with actually the third one will be pink, or the second one will be pink. And this way we get those nice soft blooms in our lilac. And this technique is also something that is very indicative of the loose watercolor style, and it all boils down to white space. So please pay attention to the white space that we're going to be using in this one here. So for the first color that I'm going to start off with, it's going to be a lilac. Yes, that sounded like a question, but it was more of a thought for me. So I've got some lilac in here on the Paul Rubens set of colors. So I'm mixing that in here, and I want it to be like a very watered down version, not as much as the as the cherry blossoms, but just a tad bit less. Okay, so something like that. And then we're going to make sure that our brush is nice and full of color. And then we're going to start off in doing little dabs, and we're going to form like a cone shaped shape. Yeah. And we'll start off with the darkest at the top, and as we progress downward, we're going to dip our brush in water to get a more muted mix of the color. Okay, so something like that, and then we're just sort of going down. Notice the white space, and I'm kind of roughly trying to create that shape, the cone shape that is. As I'm going lower, I'm getting more water. And if you see little puddles of water in your lilac, that's totally okay. Keep going, just make sure you're not filling up all the white space in between. It's a very simple technique. It might require a little bit of trial and error, especially if you've never really encountered watercolor in these sort of techniques before. It'll definitely give you more of a sense of how watercolor works. So this is the first step. We're getting something like this. Then we're going to get our pink, and the pink I'm using is called a rose red, and it looks like this. And I think it'll be a very pretty mix in. So all I'm doing is taking this rose red and I'm dropping it into these areas here, because if you've not gathered already from your encounter with watercolor, when you add another color while the base color is still damp, you're getting a bloom. And that's what we want in this flower. So you'll notice maybe because you have pooling of water with the purple, it's kind of just sitting. Remember what I said, move your brush to kind of move the color around. Don't overdo it, because there is such a thing as overdoing it, and then you end up covering all your white spaces. I'm trying to find the right word. Use this technique sparingly, or use the amount of strokes you make. Make it less than more. So something like this. So now we have that nice little pink peeping out, which is beautiful. We can then move on to our dark purple. I'm going to be using a deep purple, and this is what that looks like. And we're dropping that in mostly at the base of our shapes, just to sort of give it that more, like it's shadows happening beneath, and you know, sometimes there's little blooms of purple happening in there. Again, just like I said with the first 2 steps, if you feel like you need to sort of blend in the color a bit, go ahead and do so. I'm even going to add a couple of dabs of that at the bottom. I'll even take, at this point, if you want to take a little bit more of the first purple you used and drop that into certain areas, that'll really help things mix as well. You want to get that nice, soft, almost kind of impressionistic look to your lilac. Look at that. Okay, so what I'm doing next is I'm going to help this flow a little bit better. So I'm just going to dab my brush in a paper towel. And then we're going to help this along. Because sometimes if you let it just sit, it's going to stay with those shapes. But if you kind of help the color move along within that area, it'll give you a nicer effect. Again, if this is something you want to do, if you want to just let it be and see where that takes you, I encourage that, because this is how you learn from watercolor. This is how you grow as well in your understanding of how the medium works. So I absolutely encourage that as well. Okay, so I'm just lightly phasing off the edges. Okay, now one more thing that I want to do, and this one I will do with the number 4, is just take the darkest purple we use, which is right here. And I want to give the top a little bit more, and I'll mix it with the pink actually. I want to give the top a little bit more of a structured look. So I'm going to do little strokes like this. Kind of like making it seem like those are the tiny little buds at the top. Drop in some of that dark purple as well. Okay, and that's it. So now we can move on to doing our stems. And for the stems, I love using the the olive green, guys. So here we go. I think the olive green is fabulous. I'll mix it in with a little bit of yellow green, just to get a slightly brighter green. Otherwise, the olive green has more of that brownish look to it, which I personally love. But when you have that yellow green against the purple, it's stunning. So all I'm doing is going in between and drawing in tiny little lines to indicate the stems that are holding our buds together. And you see this little bloom happening? That's beautiful. Leave it as is. And then I'm going to do my main stem. Give it a nice little curve because I felt like it. You can always extend to make it slightly thicker. And then extend to kind of indicate like little branches protruding from your main stem to the flowers. Simple, fun, and loose. And then if you wanted to take it a step further and do some leaves, have something like this, and then using the tip of your brush, press down and trail on the tip towards the stem. I like to give it a second sort of thicker look, so I just do something like that. And here we go, we are done. One last thing, if you wanted to do this, and I think I'm definitely doing this, not I think, I know, I'm going to do a splatter, and I'm using the darkest purple that we used, and I'm going to go for a splatter. Dipping my brush in water to get a slightly lighter version, sorry, not lighter, but muted version of the purple. I'm going to do a splatter around here. And I love when it's so kind of throwing caution to the wind, not really caring so much about placement that you kind of lose control over, you don't have any control over where these spots fall. So you kind of go with the flow. And this is exactly what loose watercolor is all about. It is refreshing and kind of takes a lot of unlearning everything you have learned in school, which was always about painting within the lines and keeping things tight. And here we are going loose. So this is our lilac.